Japanese, and Indonesian. Voice of Indonesia is broadcast via shortwave 3325 kHz and 4755 kHz and via streaming on voinews.id and RRI Digital on mobile application. We present various programs for you. Diplomatic Forum, The Session, Indonesian Wonder, Miscellany, Let's Speak Bahasa Indonesia, Indonesian pop and regional songs, international musical entertainment, as well as news and information about Indonesia and abroad. Voice of Indonesia, from Indonesia to the world.
Samudra terbentang khatulistiwa, di situ ku ada bersamamu saudara. Beragam warna kita, suku tak selalu sama. Kau aku Indonesia yang disatukan karena cinta. Karena kita Indonesia, jangan pernah terpecah belah. Walau kita berbeda, walau kita tak sama, tetaplah satu kita, kita Indonesia sesungguhnya.
Welcome back to Afternoon VOI Talk. Today, we will be talking about the trend that's often seen as a safer option than smoking, but in reality poses serious risk to our health: vaping. From the heart and lungs to cancer risk and even brain development in adolescents, the dangers of vaping are far more real than many people might think. To help us understand this issue better, we are joined by Dr. Dimas Asmara, researcher at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. I'm Unica, and this is VOI Talk. Hello, doctor. How are you today? How are you feeling? It's nice to see you again.
Yes, I'm great. Thank you very much. So thank you for inviting me again, Unica.
Yes, we are glad to have you here. Doctor, right away, what is the impact of nicotine and vaping on heart health and maybe respiratory health, and how can it be reduced?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, VOI RRI, for bringing this topic to attentions because from what I see, more and more people are vaping, especially teenagers. Many starts because they think it looks cool, it looks cute, or that is safer than smoking. And there are a lot of misconceptions about vaping. So thank you very much for bringing this to attention. So regarding your questions, to understand the answer of that question, we have to really understand what is a vape itself. So basically, a vape is a device that has fundamental purpose is to heat a liquid. So this heated liquid become an aerosol. So a lot of people think it's only water vapor, but it definitely is not. It is an aerosol. So the aerosol, it contains so many chemical toxins. The first and foremost very important substance is nicotine. So nicotine is an addictive substance also found in cigarettes, but not only nicotine, but also propylene glycol, glycerins, and also we have a lot of different flavorings in vape, like fruity flavors, candy, sweets, and everything. So make it even look cute. So that's not to mention that it also contain toxic chemicals or even heavy metals. So please understand that the things that you inhale is not a water vapor. It's an aerosol that contains a lot of toxin chemicals. So it's really closely related to your health, especially the first questions about your heart is closely related because nicotine itself, it can mimic as a stress hormones like adrenaline. So it can increase your heart rate. So it can increase your blood vessel will constrict, will tighten, and your blood pressure will rise and your arteries will be hard. So the hardening of the arteries, and in long term, it can cause a heart attack or even a stroke. So yes, it's very dangerous, even though it's often labeled as a safer alternative of smoking. But yes, it carries a lot of dangerous risks.
And how can vaping cause maybe permanent lung damage? And what are the early symptoms? So maybe the VO listeners who are currently vaping or something, they are aware of the causes.
Yes. Thank you. Because you inhale aerosol from a vape that directly contact to your lungs, so it definitely can result in damaging your lungs. Especially we have a very delicate cells in your airways. It's really sensitive to this hazardous substance because naturally our lungs function is for gas exchange in sterile environment, and aerosol is definitely not sterile because aerosol contains a lot of chemical things like I mentioned earlier. So these hazard chemicals can directly damage these delicate cells. It can damage the DNA, and it can result in inflammatory response. And if it gets over and over, your DNA will change, and then there will be a scarring. So your normal lung cells will become scarred, that it will no longer work as it's usually do. So you become less exhausted very fast. So, and at long time, your lung function will decrease significantly. So, this damage in 20 or 30 years can increase the risk of getting lung cancer. So that's the imminent danger of vaping.
Okay, doctor.
Yeah.
And this is my own curiousness because you stated before about the saver option, and I want to know whether that's true or not because all of my friends, I'm from the Gen Z, so all of my friends, usually they vape a lot, and every time we mention about it, they would have this, of course, kind of defense, saying that it's safer than cigarettes. Can you make it clear whether it's true or not? Is it an actual safer option, even though it's still very much detrimental to our health? Is it a safer option?
Okay, this short answer, so I want to make it very clear. So it is not. It's not a safer option. So while it is often marketed as a safer alternative of smoking, it is far from harmless. It carries a dangerous risk for not only your heart and lungs, as we discussed earlier, but also the other organs, your brain, your cancer risk in other organs, and it's definitely not a safer alternative for smoking, even though it's off a market very cute, very cool, but it is certainly not.
Yeah, certainly not. Okay, VR listeners, it's certainly not a safer option. Okay, it's still harmful. And you mentioned about cancers, and what is the link between vaping use and an increased risk of cancer, just like you mentioned, and how can it be prevented?
Yeah. Okay. So if you talk about cancer, so cancer is a result after decades, 20 years, 30 years of exposure. And I want to be honest with you and all the audience here, because vape is a relatively new things. It's only become a popular last 10 or 15 years, while cigarettes is already been studied for almost 70, 80 years. So we already know the evidence is obvious about the cigarette, but we do not have a conclusion yet about vape because we simply haven't got the enough time to prove that. But it's a big it's a big however. So but the important part is even these early studies, we already seeing warning signs from a vape. So in medical terms, we called there's a special terms for lung injury because of vape. It's called e-valley, so e-cigarette or vape associated lung injury, and it can damage the DNA of airway cells and blood vessels. And so the evidence, while it is younger compared to cigarette and not as extensive, the direction of the science is very clear. It is increase the higher chance of getting a cancer because vape contain carcinogens. Carcinogens meaning substance that can damage your DNA. And it will damage your DNA over years, and it will change the DNA, and it will stimulate the cancer cells. So yes, it's really, really closely related. And you asked about the prevention. So the prevention is straightforward. Avoidance, complete stop, complete cessation, and even do not even start. Yes, that's the main prevention, yes.
Yeah, we don't have to make it complicated. Just basically, if you're already started, just stop. And if you never vape or smoke before, don't. Basically,
start,
that's the term. Yeah, I see that. And how can vaping affect adolescent brain development? Because you mentioned about brain also. And what are the long-term effects of vaping?
Yeah. So again, thank you for raising these concerns because maybe everyone already know that vaping is not good for your lung, for your heart, but sometimes the effect on other organ, especially brain, is somehow underestimated. But in fact, because people who vape, more of them is a teenager because older generations tend to choose cigarettes. So our adolescents, adolescent brains is still developing until around age 25. So if a teenager expose this very dangerous substance during this critical time, it can change the wiring of your brain. So it can affect areas that control your attention, control the learning, memory, impulse control. So it can affect a lot of brain function. And how about the long-term effects? So the long-term effects, it definitely can increase the risk of lifelong addiction, mood disorders, and even making the brain more sensitive to other substance and can lead to other substance abuse. So that's why teen vaping is especially concerning. Again, I want to emphasize this. It's really concerning because it can shape the brain for the decades to come. So it's really, really important.
I see. So there's no wonder whenever in nowadays a lot of teenagers, especially who smokes maybe or vaping, they all feel like they are having this brain fatigue and also brain fog. Maybe that's the cause of it. And also you mentioned about the long-term effects of it. It can lead to mood disorders and even other substance abuse. So this is very important topic and we really should put awareness on this, yeah, Doc, yeah?
Yes,
And
that's very true.
of course, talking about awareness, we all know about the recent regulation that is made by Singapore. They officially banned vaping. And Malaysia is also moving forward and talking about that topic as well. And how do you see this regulation? And do you think Indonesia should take a similar or maybe the same approach?
Yeah, I also saw the news, I think 1 week ago, when the Prime Minister of Singapore declared that they think of vaping, they act vaping as similar of taking drugs, for example. So I think that's very bold move. And I really appreciate those bold statements because people of a country will they reflect about what is the leader of the government, and the leader of the government make a bold statement that is very true and based on the obvious evidence, based on the science. So it's very clear, and I'm as a doctor, as an internist, a pulmonologist, and I'm really support for Indonesia following those regulations as well. Because, yeah, especially concerning about the effects, not only for the brain, but also the other organ, because when you're vaping, your body tends to be not as fit as before. So if your lungs is get use of the aerosol from the inhaling the aerosol, your lungs, you become shortness of breath, your chest is constantly pain, and there's a tightness on your chest, and it can really disturb your daily activities, and you can do exercise, and exercise can lead to a very good productive way of lifestyle, for example. So yes, the domino effect of vaping is very, very broad. So I clearly support this regulation. So again, my message is very, very simple. If you don't smoke, don't start vaping. If you do vape, please stop or seek help to stop, because protecting your body means protecting your life tomorrow. So that's my message.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oka Dimas, for the message and also insightful value and knowledge and also valuable explanation today. Thank you so much, Doctor. This discussion...
Thank you for having me too. Yeah,
yes.
You're welcome.
This discussion reminds us that vaping is not a harmless habit. It carries real dangers for the body, especially for the heart, lungs, brain, and also even cancerous. With countries like Singapore taking firm steps through regulation, hopefully more awareness and preventive actions can also grow here in Indonesia. I'm Unica. Thank you for listening to Afternoon VOI Talk.